In the pantheon of divine beings that populate Hindu mythology, few deities command the immediate recognition and universal affection that Ganesha does. Before any prayer is uttered, before any ceremony begins, before merchants open their shops or students sit for examinations, it is his name that rises first into the morning air. With his distinctive elephant head crowned by a single tusk, his generous belly, and his unlikely companion, a tiny mouse, Ganesha stands at the threshold of every beginning, every endeavor, every hope. He is the remover of obstacles and, paradoxically, the placer of them. He is the Lord of intellect and the patron of arts. He is both ancient and eternally relevant, his image adorning everything from temple sanctums to modern corporate offices across the globe. The story of Ganesha is not simply a tale from distant antiquity. It is a living narrative that continues to unfold in the hearts of millions who seek his blessings daily. His form challenges our expectations of divinity. His legends reveal profound truths about wisdom and sacrifice, and his worship demonstrates the enduring power of faith to transform and inspire. There is something profoundly captivating about the sight of an elephant-headed deity riding upon a mouse. The sheer impossibility of it arrests our attention and invites us to look deeper. In Hindu iconography, nothing appears by accident. Every curl of trunk, every gesture of hand, every object held carries layers of meaning that have been contemplated and refined across millennia. Ganesha's elephant head is not a quirk of artistic imagination, but a profound symbol of wisdom, discriminative power, and the ability to listen deeply to those who seek help. The elephant itself holds special significance in Indian culture. These magnificent creatures are known for their intelligence, their exceptional memory, and their ability to navigate through dense forests by clearing paths for their herds. They possess both tremendous power and remarkable gentleness. They can uproot massive trees, yet handle objects with delicate precision using their trunks. In Ganesha, these qualities find their divine expression. His large forehead represents the vastness of knowledge and the expansive nature of wisdom. His small eyes remind us to focus intently on the goals before us, to concentrate our energies rather than scatter them. His substantial ears teach us that listening is more valuable than speaking, that wisdom comes to those who receive rather than those who constantly transmit. But how did this beloved deity come to possess such an unusual form? The answer lies in one of Hindu mythology's most dramatic and poignant tales, a story that exists in multiple versions across different sacred texts, each adding its own nuances to the narrative. The most widely told version comes from the Shiva Purana. Long ago, the goddess Parvati, wife of the great Lord Shiva, desired privacy while bathing. Shiva, in his divine wanderings, had a habit of entering their chambers unannounced, and Parvati longed for a guardian who would respect her need for solitude. So she took turmeric paste, the golden powder she used for her bath, and from the very substance she rubbed from her own body, she formed a figure. She molded it carefully, lovingly, into the shape of a boy. Then, breathing life into this creation, she commanded him to stand guard at the entrance to her chambers and allow no one, absolutely no one, to enter while she bathed. The boy took his post with the fierce dedication that only a newly created being, eager to fulfill his purpose, could possess. He stood at the threshold, small but resolute, empowered by his mother's divine energy and determined to honor her trust. He did not know that his very first test would come from the most powerful direction possible. When Shiva returned from his meditation on the distant peaks of Mount Kailash, he found his path blocked by this unknown boy. The great destroyer, used to moving freely through all realms, used to commanding respect from gods and demons alike, was stopped at the entrance to his own dwelling by a child he had never seen. Shiva demanded entry. The boy refused, his duty clear in his mind. Shiva's anger began to rise, like storm clouds gathering on a mountain peak. Who was this child who dared deny him? The boy stood firm, unwavering in his loyalty to Parvati's command. What happened next was swift and terrible. In his fury, Shiva drew his trident and struck the boy, severing his head from his body. The divine child fell, and with him fell the peace of that sacred dwelling. When Parvati emerged and saw what had transpired, her grief shattered the cosmos. Her cries of anguish echoed across all the realms. This was her son, created from her own essence, faithful to the end. The other gods, sensing the disturbance in the universal balance, gathered in alarm. Even Shiva, his anger cooling in the face of such profound sorrow, realized the gravity of what he had done. To restore cosmic harmony and ease Parvati's suffering, Shiva commanded his attendants to venture into the world and bring back the head of the first living creature they found sleeping with its head facing north. The direction was significant, for north represents wisdom and spiritual progress in Hindu cosmology. His servants searched and eventually came upon an elephant, that great embodiment of wisdom and strength, resting with its noble head turned toward the auspicious direction. Following Shiva's instructions, they removed the elephant's head and brought it back to Mount Kailash. With divine power, Shiva placed the elephant's head upon the boy's shoulders, and life returned to the small form. But this was no longer simply a boy. This was something new, something unprecedented, something that would become one of Hinduism's most beloved deities. Shiva, in recognition of what had happened, and to honor Parvati's love, declared that this elephant-headed god would henceforth be worshipped before all others. He would be known as Ganesha, Lord of the Ganas, Shiva's attendant beings. He would be the remover of obstacles, the one whose blessing must be sought before any new undertaking. From tragedy and transformation came a deity whose very existence speaks to the possibility of redemption and new beginnings. But this is not the only version of Ganesha's origin. Hindu mythology, in its infinite richness, offers multiple perspectives on divine truths. In another telling, found in different Puranas, Ganesha was born as a beautiful infant, perfect in every way. Parvati, proud of her newborn son, invited all the gods to gaze upon him. Among them came Shani, the personification of the planet Saturn, known by the ominous name Kurardrish, the evil-sighted one. Shani possessed a terrible curse. Anyone upon whom he cast his gaze would suffer misfortune. Reluctant to look at the infant, knowing the destructive power of his glance, Shani tried to avoid the child's face, but Parvati, unaware of the danger and wanting all the gods to admire her son, insisted that Shani look at the baby properly. The moment his eyes fell upon the child's face, the infant's head burst into flames and turned to ash. Parvati's joy transformed instantly to despair, and once again the gods had to intervene to restore the child. They instructed Parvati to replace the head with that of the first creature she found, which happened to be an elephant. These different versions are not contradictions, but variations on a theme, like different musical interpretations of the same composition. Each reveals something essential about the nature of divinity, about the relationship between creation and destruction, about how the most profound transformations often emerge from moments of crisis. Once we understand how Ganesha received his distinctive form, we can begin to appreciate the intricate symbolism woven into every aspect of his appearance. Ganesha is typically depicted with 4 arms, though some representations show him with more. These multiple arms represent his omnipresence and his ability to work in all directions simultaneously. In these hands, he holds objects that are not mere decorative elements, but spiritual tools, each teaching a lesson to those who contemplate them. In one hand, he holds an axe, a tool for cutting. But this is no ordinary implement. The axe represents the severing of attachments, the cutting away of bonds that prevent spiritual progress. It reminds devotees that sometimes growth requires letting go, that obstacles are often our own clinging to things that no longer serve us. In another hand, he holds a rope or noose, which symbolizes his ability to pull his devotees toward truth and away from illusion. The rope can capture and restrain, but it can also guide and direct. It represents the gentle force that leads seekers toward enlightenment. The third hand holds a modak, a sweet dumpling that Ganesha famously loves. This sweet treat symbolizes the rewards of spiritual practice, the bliss that comes from following the path of Dharma. It represents the sweetness of the realized soul, the joy that is both the goal and the result of devotion. The fourth hand is often raised in the Abhaya Mudra, the gesture of fearlessness and protection. The palm faces outward, fingers pointing upward. In a universal sign of blessing and reassurance, this gesture tells devotees not to be afraid, that the divine protects those who approach with sincere hearts. Ganesha's large belly deserves special attention. At first glance, it might seem to represent mere indulgence, a love of sweets taken to extreme, but the symbolism goes much deeper. The belly represents the capacity to digest all experiences, both pleasant and painful. It symbolizes contentment, the ability to remain at peace regardless of external circumstances. In spiritual terms, it represents the yogi's capacity to contain and process all of life's dualities without being disturbed by them. Just as the stomach digests food, breaking it down and extracting nourishment, Ganesha's belly reminds us to digest our experiences, to find the lesson in every situation, to transform even obstacles into opportunities for growth. His trunk, that most versatile of appendages, carries profound meaning. An elephant's trunk can uproot trees or pick up a single blade of grass. It can spray water forcefully or touch with incredible gentleness. This duality represents adaptability, discrimination, and the capacity to apply exactly the right amount of force to any situation. In spiritual practice, this translates to the ability to be firm when firmness is needed, and gentle when gentleness serves better. It represents the wisdom to know the difference. One of Ganesha's most distinctive features is his broken tusk. While one tusk remains whole, the other is broken, giving him the name Ekadanta, the one-tusked god. This is not a defect but a badge of honor, and the story of how he lost his tusk ranks among the most celebrated tales in Hindu mythology. According to the most famous version, the great sage Vyasa had composed the epic Mahabharata in his mind. This vast poem, one of the longest epic poems in any language, contained hundreds of thousands of verses, chronicling the great war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, weaving together philosophy, ethics, and divine revelation. Vyasa needed a scribe, someone capable of writing down this monumental work as he dictated it. But the requirements were extraordinary. The scribe would have to write without pause, maintaining the speed of Vyasa's recitation, understanding complex philosophical concepts as they were spoken. Vyasa approached Ganesha with this request. Ganesha, the lord of intellect, agreed to serve as scribe, but he imposed his own condition. Vyasa must narrate the epic without stopping. If Vyasa paused for even a moment, Ganesha would cease writing and the work would remain incomplete. Vyasa accepted, but added his own clever twist. He agreed to recite without stopping, but Ganesha must fully understand each verse before writing it down. This would give Vyasa brief moments to compose the next verses, while Ganesha contemplated the deeper meanings of what had just been spoken. The agreement was struck, and the recitation began. For days and weeks, the epic flowed from Vyasa's lips to Ganesha's recording hand. But then, at a crucial moment, Ganesha's writing instrument broke. Rather than stop and violate the agreement, rather than let this monumental work remain incomplete, Ganesha made an instant decision. He snapped off his own tusk and continued writing with it, using his own body as the tool to preserve knowledge. The Mahabharata was completed, and Ganesha's sacrifice became immortalized in his form. The broken tusk carries multiple layers of symbolism. On one level, it represents sacrifice for a higher purpose. Ganesha gave up part of himself to ensure that sacred knowledge would be preserved and transmitted. This teaches that sometimes achievement requires sacrifice, that worthwhile goals demand that we give something of ourselves. On another level, the single tusk represents the transcendence of duality. In Hindu philosophy, much of human suffering comes from our entanglement in pairs of opposites: pleasure and pain, success and failure, praise and blame. Two tusks could represent this duality, while the single tusk symbolizes the achievement of unity, the realization of the non-dual reality that underlies all apparent opposites. The broken tusk also reminds us that perfection is not about symmetry or wholeness in a conventional sense, but about meaning and purpose. Ganesha, with his broken tusk, is not diminished but enhanced, not weakened but made more powerful. If Ganesha's elephant form surprises us, his choice of vehicle astonishes us completely. In Hindu iconography, each deity has a vahana, a vehicle or mount that carries them and symbolizes aspects of their nature. Durga rides a lion, Shiva rides a bull, Saraswati rides a swan, and Ganesha, the mighty elephant-headed god, rides a mouse. The visual paradox is intentional and profound. How can a massive elephant ride upon a tiny mouse? The physical impossibility forces us to look beyond the literal to the symbolic truth. According to the Ganesha Purana, the mouse was once a celestial being named Krauncha, a Gandharva or celestial musician. One day at the court of Indra, king of the gods, Krauncha accidentally stepped on the foot of the sage Vamadeva. The sage, furious at this disrespect, cursed Krauncha to become a rodent. But the curse had an unexpected effect. The mouse grew to mountainous proportions, wreaking havoc across the land, destroying crops and terrorizing people. Ganesha heard the pleas of those suffering and set out to confront this giant rodent. When he found the creature, Ganesha cast his pasha, his divine noose, capturing the mouse and bringing it under control. But instead of destroying the creature, Ganesha showed compassion. He offered the mouse redemption, the chance to serve a higher purpose. The mouse, humbled and grateful, agreed to become Ganesha's vahana. As soon as Ganesha mounted the mouse, the creature shrank to normal size, able to bear the god's weight through divine power. The symbolism of the mouse is rich and multi-layered. Mice are creatures of desire, constantly gnawing, never satisfied, always seeking the next morsel. They move in darkness, operate in hidden places, and can slip through the smallest openings. In this sense, the mouse represents the restless human mind, always darting here and there, consumed by desires and fears, living in the shadows of ignorance. By riding the mouse, Ganesha demonstrates mastery over these qualities. He shows that the mind, when controlled and directed, becomes a powerful vehicle for spiritual progress rather than an obstacle to it. The mouse also represents the ego, that sense of separate self that seems so substantial but is actually quite small. Under the direction of wisdom, symbolized by Ganesha, even the ego can be transformed into something useful. The mouse's ability to find its way through narrow passages and hidden tunnels also symbolizes Ganesha's power to penetrate into the deepest secrets, to find solutions where none seem to exist, to discover paths through seemingly insurmountable obstacles. When devotees face problems that appear to have no solution, they turn to Ganesha, trusting that like his mouse, who can squeeze through the tiniest crack, he will find a way forward. This brings us to perhaps Ganesha's most celebrated role, Vighnaharta, the remover of obstacles. But his relationship with obstacles is more complex and interesting than it might first appear. He is not only the remover of obstacles, but also the placer of them. This dual nature reflects a profound understanding of the spiritual path. Sometimes obstacles need to be removed so that we can progress, but sometimes obstacles need to be placed in our way to prevent us from pursuing paths that would lead to our harm, to slow us down when we need time to develop, or to test and strengthen our resolve. Ganesha's role as obstacle remover explains why he is worshipped first, before any other deity, at the beginning of any new undertaking. Whether starting a business, beginning a journey, getting married, sitting for an examination, or performing any ritual, Hindus invoke Ganesha first. This practice, known as Prathama Puja, reflects both practical wisdom and deep spiritual truth. Practically, it acknowledges that new beginnings are vulnerable times, moments when unexpected obstacles can derail our best efforts. By seeking Ganesha's blessing, we prepare ourselves mentally and spiritually to face whatever challenges may arise. Spiritually, it recognizes that the greatest obstacles often lie within ourselves, our doubts, our attachments, our old patterns of thinking. By invoking the Lord of Wisdom at the start, we invite the transformative power that can clear away these internal hindrances. The famous story of Ganesha's competition with his brother Kartikeya beautifully illustrates the nature of true wisdom and why Ganesha earned the right to be worshipped first. One day, Shiva and Parvati presented their two sons with a challenge. Whoever could circumambulate the entire universe 3 times and return first would receive a special blessing and be honored above the other. Kartikeya, the god of war, young and athletic and eager to prove himself, immediately leaped upon his peacock and flew off into the cosmos. He would circle the universe through sheer speed and determination, visiting every distant realm, every star and planet. Ganesha, however, took a different approach. While his brother vanished into the distance, Ganesha calmly walked 3 times around his parents, Shiva and Parvati, and then sat down. When Shiva asked what he was doing, Ganesha explained with simple profundity, "You are my universe. You contain everything that exists. By circling you, I have circled all of creation." Shiva and Parvati were delighted by this demonstration of wisdom. When Kartikeya finally returned, exhausted from his cosmic journey, he found that his brother had already won, not through speed or strength, but through understanding the essential truth. The entire universe exists within the divine. This story established Ganesha's preeminence and his association with intellectual and spiritual wisdom rather than mere physical prowess. As patron of arts and sciences, Ganesha holds a special place in the hearts of students, scholars, writers, and artists. His association with learning is natural given his role as the scribe of the Mahabharata, but it extends far beyond that single act. Ganesha represents buddhi, a Sanskrit word that encompasses intelligence, wisdom, discernment, and the higher intellect that distinguishes truth from falsehood. In traditional practice, students invoke Ganesha before beginning their studies. Artists pray to him before starting creative projects. Writers seek his blessing before putting pen to paper. This is not merely superstition, but recognition that all creative and intellectual endeavors face obstacles, confusion, doubt, creative blocks, discouragement. By invoking Ganesha, seekers invite the wisdom and determination needed to overcome these challenges. In many depictions, Ganesha is shown with his consorts, Siddhi and Buddhi, whose names mean spiritual power and intellect. These are not merely wives, but personified qualities that Ganesha embodies and bestows upon his devotees. Together, they represent the complete package: wisdom, power, and success. The presence of these consorts reminds us that intellectual brilliance without spiritual power remains incomplete, just as spiritual power without wisdom can lead astray. The worship of Ganesha reaches its annual crescendo during Ganesh Chaturthi, a festival celebrated with particular enthusiasm in the western Indian state of Maharashtra, though it has spread across India and into Hindu communities worldwide. The festival celebrates Ganesha's birthday and typically lasts 10 days, beginning on the 4th day of the Hindu lunar month of Bhadrapada, which falls in August or September. The origins of Ganesh Chaturthi as a major public festival trace back to the 17th century, when it was celebrated during the reign of the Maratha king Shivaji. However, the festival gained its modern form and widespread popularity in the late 19th century through the efforts of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, a leader in India's independence movement. Tilak recognized that the British colonial government, while restricting political assemblies, could not easily ban religious gatherings. He transformed Ganesh Chaturthi from a private family celebration into a massive public event that brought communities together and fostered national unity and cultural pride under the guise of religious observance. This strategic use of religious celebration as a form of cultural resistance left a lasting legacy. Even after independence, Ganesh Chaturthi remained a powerful expression of communal identity and shared devotion. The festival begins with the installation of Ganesha images, traditionally made of clay and beautifully decorated, in homes and in public spaces called pandals. These temporary structures become centers of community activity, featuring elaborate decorations, cultural performances, and continuous devotional music. Families and communities perform rituals known as prana pratishta, which literally means establishment of life force. Through Vedic mantras and offerings, the clay image is ritually transformed into a vessel for divine presence. For the duration of the festival, the image is treated as an honored guest, offered food, flowers, and prayers multiple times daily. On the final day, called Anant Chaturdashi, the images are taken in grand processions to nearby bodies of water for immersion. This ritual, called Visarjana, symbolizes Ganesha's return to his celestial home, Mount Kailash, and the cyclical nature of creation and dissolution. As the images dissolve in the water, devotees chant Ganapati Bappa Moria Purchavarshi Lokarya, which means, "Hail Lord Ganesha, come again next year." The immersion is both joyful and poignant, a celebration and a farewell, embodying the Hindu understanding that all things in the material world are temporary, but the divine consciousness is eternal. In recent years, environmental awareness has brought changes to these celebrations. Traditional clay images dissolve harmlessly in water, but many modern images are made of non-biodegradable plaster of Paris and painted with chemical colors that pollute rivers and lakes. A growing movement promotes eco-friendly celebrations using traditional materials and natural dyes, demonstrating how ancient traditions can adapt to address contemporary concerns. The influence of Ganesha extends far beyond India's borders. Wherever Hindu culture has traveled, Ganesha has followed, and his worship has adapted to local contexts. In Thailand, Cambodia, and throughout Southeast Asia, Ganesha is revered in both Hindu and Buddhist contexts. In Japan, he is known as Kangiten in Shingon Buddhism. In Indonesia, despite the country's Muslim majority, Ganesha remains a symbol of knowledge and education. His image appears in unexpected places. On the logos of companies seeking to suggest success and wisdom, in tattoos chosen by people seeking protection against obstacles, in art galleries and museums worldwide, where his distinctive form bridges religious and aesthetic appreciation. This global reach speaks to something universal in Ganesha's symbolism. The challenges he addresses, obstacles to our goals, the need for wisdom in decision-making, the desire to begin new chapters successfully. These are human concerns that transcend cultural boundaries. His image, strange and wonderful, invites curiosity and conveys immediate meaning even to those unfamiliar with Hindu theology. There is something profoundly hopeful in the idea of a deity whose primary function is to help people overcome difficulties and achieve their aspirations. As we conclude our journey through the mythology and meaning of Ganesha, we find ourselves enriched by the layered wisdom embedded in every aspect of his form and his stories. From the tragic circumstances of his birth, through his transformation into the elephant-headed deity, from his selfless sacrifice of his tusk to preserve knowledge, to his unlikely mount that symbolizes mastery over the restless mind. Every element of Ganesha's tradition offers lessons for living with wisdom, courage, and compassion. He teaches us that obstacles are not merely impediments to be removed, but opportunities for growth. He shows us that wisdom often lies not in force, but in understanding, not in speed, but in discernment. He reminds us that new beginnings, properly blessed and prepared for, carry the seeds of success. And he demonstrates that the divine can take many forms, even forms that challenge our expectations and invite us to see beyond surface appearances to deeper truths. If you found this exploration of Ganesha meaningful, please consider subscribing to History Scrolls for more deep dives into the rich traditions of world mythology. Like this video if it enriched your understanding, and share it with others who might appreciate learning about this beloved deity. Until next time, may all obstacles in your path transform into opportunities for wisdom.